Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
And my pleasure to welcome once again to the beach, Ralph McAlister. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Well, the die is cast, John. I turned the electric blanket on last night.
No!
I put the heater on this morning.
No!
And I always feel with a sense of failure I'm giving in, you know?
I know exactly what you mean. I really do. Now, I hold off those dreaded moments as long as I possibly can. I'm shivering away thinking, no. We'll be stoic. We'll last. We'll be all right for another day. I know exactly what you mean. Well, good on you. You've got to look after yourself.
I had to go and just have lunch with a American friend of mine yesterday. And when I got finally down to his beautiful house in Scorching Bay, he flew at me with rage because I was wearing shorts. He told me that I was the most stupid person. All done with love. But,
yes,
he was really angry with me.
Well, we've got to look after ourselves. We live in very, very strange times, don't we? And
you said stoic. I didn't say that. You know.
Yes, I know. Oh, well, I'm afraid I'm a slave to myself and my upbringing, as many of us are, frankly. But I believe that you've got an interesting book today about American dirt, presumably not related to your friend at Scorching Bay.
I'll tell him you said that. You'll say that. Now, this is to revert to being serious for a bit. This has become a bestseller. It's written by an American woman who's written two others, but she's received a great deal of flack because she's taken on the whole identity of a young American woman who, in the first chapter, loses 16 members of her family in Mexico, in the capital, to the cartel, the drug cartel. She manages to escape with her 8-year-old boy, Luca. And the story is really Lydia and Luca, Lydia's the mother, trying to get out of Mexico and on the way to America, hopefully, to Denver, to a distant relative, and save each other's lives, really.
Goodness.
Because the guy that's pursuing them is called the Owl, and he's got, as somebody said, eyes everywhere. He knows he's a huge drug lord, and she'd established a relationship with him in her bookshop at the beginning of the novel.
Yes.
This is all based on truth, but it's also, of course, a novel, but it's really gruesome, realistic, and very, very well written. But it's this sort of old complaint from some narrow-minded people that unless you're one of that particular set, you can't write about it, you know. We've had this in the past with Mari and Pacquiao.
Yes,
but
yes, indeed.
This one is very acutely being held up to scrutiny by some narrow-minded critics saying, how dare she? Why didn't a Mexican woman write this story? Well, of course, a Mexican woman hasn't written this story, and we should be pretty grateful for it because it's full of shot through with humanity, John. It's also terrifying. Some of the time you just have to stop the reading. You know, they go on top of these freight trains, you know, she and her young eight-year-old son, and try to get across to the border. And it's so pertinent to what's been happening in the world in the last few years anyway, with immigrants or with refugees. It's just so gripping and very, as I said, very well written and worthy of, you know, most people's attention. I got this at Paper Plus as usual. My darling Kay and Rob recommended it, and I would recommend it to anybody who doesn't have too weak a stomach, because there are some. When I said 16 people were lost at the beginning of the novel, That's bad enough, but it gets worse, shall we put it that way?
Yes. Oh, look, I can easily imagine that. So
Yeah.
I was going to ask you whether it's based on real life, because I've been following the cartels. It's not just a cartel, of course. There's several cartels in Mexico. They have these regular wars, and it's absolutely terrifying. So what you're talking about are slices of life. So I can imagine putting the fictional overlay and the narrative around these real incidents. That would be terrifying enough. It really would be.
Well, you've got it in one. It's really scary. It's following in that very healthy tradition of Philip Roth, American Pastoral and things like that.
Yes.
And it may not be quite up to Philip Roth's standard, but it's a very, very powerful piece of polemic, but also a very good story. And hopefully, I won't tell your readers, it could have a sort of happy ending, but I'm not going to go that far.
All right. American Dirt. Where does the name come from? Is that what the Mexicans called the Americans involved in this?
It's got several layers of meaning in it, of course. The behaviour of the Americans, the soil,
yes.
the desire to get to it.
Of course, yes.
All that sort of play on words, which she does very cleverly.
Well, that sounds absolutely fascinating. American Dirt. Her name was Janine Cummins, was it?
Cummins.
Thank you so much for that. Much appreciated. It's on my list, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
And the sun is coming out, so I might turn the heater off.
Okay. Ralph, we have to look after you. You're absolutely irreplaceable. Lovely to talk to you once again. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Ralph McAlister.
106.3 Beach FM.